Welcome to Trial Site News Weekly Roundup. My name is Adrian, and I'll be going over some of our top news stories from this past week. Please click the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. This week we start our roundup with cancer-related news. Trizell, a European gene therapy biotech venture, is sponsoring a new phase 3 clinical trial this month to evaluate the efficacy of TR002, a novel gene therapy drug, when used in combination with celecoxib and gemcitabine, a form of immunotherapy. TR002 is a genetically engineered adenovirus that triggers the anti-tumor effects of interferon, a naturally occurring protein that destroys cells. TR002 did well in an early phase 2 clinical trial. The disease control rate was 87.5% for patients who were either newly diagnosed or were failed by standard chemotherapy. It is the hope that phase 3 clinical trial offers medical professionals another important drug in the armamentarium of mesothelioma patients. The trial represents the peak of more than 2 decades of research. Again, the clinical trial is sponsored by gene therapy venture Trizell, which has facilities in both the UK and Finland. The study sponsor hopes to enroll 300 participants, and we'll keep you posted on the story as it develops. Meanwhile, FirstHealth of the Carolinas enrolled the first patient in a worldwide clinical trial testing and efficacy of safety of immune therapies designed to battle cervical cancer. Selected by sponsors GOG Foundation, Inc. and Agenus, Inc. for the multinational clinical trial to test Agenus AGEN 2034 PD1, administered alone or in a combination with Agenus AGEN 1884 for treatment of patients with advanced cervical cancer who relapsed or progressed after receiving first-line platinum-based chemotherapy. The study sponsors recruited 70 clinical investigator sites and is targeting up to 200 participants. FirstHealth of the Carolinas is a health provider for residents in the Carolinas. Turning now to clinical trial-related news. Vir Biotechnology fits the bill of an entrepreneurial operation developing a pipeline based on deal-making prowess, venture capital, and an alliance with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The San Francisco-based emerging biopharma venture now plans to go public, raising about $100 million to further advance their infectious disease pipeline. Their focus is drug development to treat and prevent infectious diseases in both the developed and developing worlds. The hepatitis B compound VIR-2218 is the most progressed drug in the San Francisco-based biotech's pipeline and is now in phase 1 and 2 clinical trials. They report that the subcutaneously administered therapy is showing promise in hepatitis B surface antigen, that is a protein on the surface of the virus indicating a patient is infectious. Additional data from the study will follow the latter half of 2019. In an important market signal for the acceptance of expensive new gene therapies, Cigna, the fourth largest health insurer in America by membership at 17 million, will fully cover advanced multi-million-dollar gene therapies, such as Luxturna and Zolgensma. The payer understands that these new gene therapies are breakthrough in nature, manipulating genes of the patient at the cellular level. The most expensive drugs in the world, Novartis Zolgensma, costs about $2.1 million for a spinal muscular atrophy treatment. Cigna may well add new advanced treatments leveraging the expertise of their pharmacy benefits manager, Express Scripts, which it acquired for $54 billion last year. Cigna will protect employers and unions against the skyrocketing prices some of these advanced therapies can command on the American drug market. It is reported that the addressable market for gene therapy could be nearly $2.5 billion, reports Whitney Gem, an analyst with Guggenheim, as reported in CNBC. Elsewhere in Visalia, California, known as the center of California's agricultural belt, becomes more and more high-tech by the year. Most recently, MilliporeSigma announced the construction of a 120,000 square foot distribution center in the Visalia Industrial Park. MilliporeSigma is a subsidiary of Merck Germany, known as Merck KGaA, one of the top 20 largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. UCLA geneticist Steve Horvath has led a small clinical study that effectively reversed the participants' epigenetic clock for what appears to be about 2.5 years, as reported in the Journal of Nature. The study involved a combination of drugs and growth hormones. Patients were treated with a combination of growth hormones and 2 diabetic medications, which appeared to have worked, also rejuvenating the participants' immune systems. The participating scientists found themselves surprised by the results. On average, the participants shed 2.5 years of their biological ages, as measured by analyzing marks on a person's genomes. Additionally, the participants revealed signs of immune system rejuvenation. Of course, it was a very small study, and there would need to be considered more research to understand these results and the merits of this approach in human populations. But nonetheless, the trial results surprised the participating investigators. The treatment is being developed by Los Angeles, California-based Intervene Immune, which focuses on the age-related decline of the immune system, known as the immunosenescence. The company has been studying the clinical potential of regenerating the thymus, a specialized primary lymphoid organ of the immune system, as a means of reversing age-related immune system decline. Note that the clinical investigator Steve Horvath will be participating in a Trial Site News podcast interview upcoming. Elsewhere in clinical trial-related news, clinical research is in trouble. As reported in the Annals of Internal Medicine, clinical research in America faces profound challenges, from a declining number of clinical trials performed to shrinking numbers of participants enrolled in dwindling amounts of willing investigators and the one-and-done problem. The overall apparatus is in trouble. The United States has the highest proportion of clinical trial sites worldwide, 43%, but the annual growth rate is negative between 2006 to 2012. A myriad of concerns are building now, from declining clinical investigators to a growing mountain of regulatory paperwork, all leading to the need for reform and possibly transformation for how clinical research is conducted. And we'll keep you posted on this story as it develops. Turning now to flu-related news. Genentech announced positive results from the Phase 3 BLOCKSTONE study, which evaluated a single dose of Xofluza compared with a placebo as a preventative treatment for household members, adults and children, who are living with someone with an influenza infection. The study reached the primary endpoint of fewer people testing positive for the flu, with fever and at least one respiratory symptom, when treated with Xofluza versus placebo. Full results of the study were presented as a late-breaking abstract during the Options X 2019 Congress in Singapore on Sunday, September 1st, 2019. Next up, PTSD-related news. Johns Hopkins has opened the Center for Psychedelic and Consciousness Research in the nation's first-ever research center to study the use of psychedelic substances as medicine for a range of mental health ailments, including addiction, depression, and PTSD. With $17 million in commitments from wealthy private donors and a foundation, psychedelic medicine will be examined for its usefulness in learning about mind, brain, and psychiatric disorders, Roland Griffiths, Ph.D., a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins who will direct the new center, said that the new funds will cover 6-time full faculty, 5 postdoctoral scientists, and the cost of running trials. Among the first of those trials is a test of psilocybin, the active agent in the so-called magic mushroom for anorexia nervosa and the psychological distress and cognitive impairment in early Alzheimer's disease. And now we turn to SiteWatch-related news. In a strange move, Northwestern Medicine's Immunotherapy and Autoimmune Diseases program, by all appearances a successful clinical research program involved with the testing of hematopoietic stem cell transplantations, or HSCT, will cease to operate. The official reason: its chief, Richard Burt, will resign as he takes a research sabbatical to teach the HSCT protocol he developed around the U.S., as well as write a book. Strange, however, that a dynamic and successful clinical investigative site focused on some of the most advanced investigational therapies would shut down just because its leader is leaving. Facebook, as Trial Site News can attest, is perhaps the most powerful patient group platform worldwide. The Northwestern Chicago HSCT stem cell transplantation official patient run appeared to be how patients were notified about the closure. This seems a little strange. Clinical investigational sites are governed by the need for stringent FDA compliance systems and processes known as Good Clinical Practices or GCP. These organizations set up policies and procedures for most everything. Typically, there is a process and set of procedures and work instructions prepared for a major event such as the closure of the facility. Would it be in the policy to notify patients by Facebook? Well, perhaps each and every patient received a formal letter of closure, but that wasn't uncovered by a very thorough journalist. Apparently, as Ms. Zimmer for the scientist dug up, Burt and his team have had troubles with the FDA just a few years ago, November 2016, receiving an FDA warning letter violations that were significant and evidenced the investigator-initiated study that was struggling with quality controls. The scientist was able to confirm from Burt that the research site's closure had nothing to do with the FDA warning. He was quoted by Ms. Zimmer in an email in December 2016 that the FDA sent a follow-up letter saying our response was satisfactory and that there were no further actions or questions. The FDA found no treatment-related deaths in any of the studies, end quote. Elsewhere in SiteWatch news, mounting pressure in the form of lawsuits, consumer advocacy, and a congressional inquiry seems to be working to force a triad of insulin makers to reduce pricing, which has gone up by 50% over the last few years. Trial Site News has uncovered the insulin pricing dynamics of late with interest. We noted that recent research revealed that the usual competition and price correlation in standard economics wasn't playing out in the real world of drug pricing. The insulin market was a prime example where a few large competitors seemed to bid up the price over the past few years, despite the market's pleading demands for lower prices. Now the firms are reacting more rationally to market forces, albeit with some government saber-rattling and a congressional inquiry into insulin prices. States are trying to take matters into their own hands, including establishing a monthly drug price caps in their states. For example, a new law in Colorado placed a cap on the price of insulin for insured patients at $100 per month. This has generated a lot of interest in other states. Governor Jared Polis signed HB 1216 in May declaring the days of insulin price gouging are over in Colorado. The new law precludes Medicaid patients or the uninsured. It does contain a provision to support those facing high health insurance deductibles or out-of-pocket costs and face insulin bills that can exceed $1,600 per month, reports the Colorado government website. Shortly thereafter, politicians in California, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania started inquiring about the new law. For more information on this new trend, see the link below in our description. Turning now to an opioid use story. Psychiatry and radiology researchers from Penn Medicine have joined forces to launch a new center of excellence focusing on neuroimaging as a powerful tool to better understand and find cures for opioid use disorders. With $8.9 million in hand from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the Penn PET Addiction Center of Excellence represents the first of its kind dedicated to utilizing the positron emission tomography imaging to investigate the neurobiology of people struggling with opioid use disorders. And now we turn to arthritis-related news. Roy M. Fleischman, MD, and primary investigator for Select Compare, the Phase 3 clinical trial of Rinovoc, AbbVie's oral once-daily JAK inhibitor for adults with moderate to severely active rheumatoid arthritis who have had an inadequate response or intolerance to methotrexate. In this article, the Rheumatology Network's Amy Reyes interviews Dr. Fleischman, the clinical professor at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. To read the interview, click the link below in the description. Now, elsewhere in arthritis-related news, NFL players are heroes. They are considered indestructible giants of men. So was John Michaels of the Green Bay Packers until an injury stopped his professional football career. It happens to a lot of NFL players, and a life of pain and suffering can follow. John Michaels studied medicine after the NFL and became a prominent Dallas area physician dedicated to improving patients' health, including many ex-NFL players. He is now becoming a clinical investigator, as well as Biopharmaceuticals secures FDA approval for their investigational new drug application. The emerging biopharmaceutical company submitted an expanded access, or IND, for pentosan polysulfate sodium, or PPS, for the treatment of about 10 ex-NFL patients with pain associated with knee osteoarthritis, with concurrent bone marrow lesions, where patients are failing to the prevailing standard of care. Dr. Michaels will be the principal investigator for compassionate use studies, will include ex-NFL players as study participants. Dr. John Michaels is with Interventional Spine and Pain, LLP. They were founded with the belief that the most effective method of improving chronic pain conditions is through a multidisciplinary approach and non-surgical interventional procedures. This is accomplished with an understanding of the fact that pain can impact an individual's quality of life, functionality, emotionally, and socially. Generally, the Dallas, Texas-based practice focuses on conservative and interventional procedures with the goal of minimizing dependence on opioids to improve quality of life, function, and pain coping skills to help the patient better adapt to their daily activities and get back to their normal daily function. Dr. Michaels will be a participant on the Trial Site News podcast in November, and we'll keep you posted from here. Turning now to artificial intelligence news. Cloud computing is coming to drug development in a big way. A traditionally conservative and risk-adverse industry driven by conservative quality departments that like to actually read the serial numbers of servers hosting applications supporting the drug development process, that all is changing as cloud giants Amazon and Microsoft transform computing. Microsoft Corp and UK drug maker AstraZeneca are building a health tech incubator in Paris to help build an ecosystem of innovative problem solvers, leveraging the Microsoft Azure cloud network. Bloomberg reports that the AI Factory for Health represents an innovative startup incubator pairing AstraZeneca's clinical research expertise, including legal, as well as healthcare establishments and data with the power of Microsoft's Azure cloud network. The market gets more crowded by the day as startups and established vendors pour into the market to compete for lucrative contracts with drug makers. Elsewhere in AI-related news, Ronnie Gamzu, CEO of Tel Aviv's Ishlav Hospital, recently touted the benefits of digital and AI moving forward at hospitals and healthcare institutions. The savvy CEO noted that doctors on their own aren't capable of continuously producing accurate prognosis to each and every one of their hundreds and even thousands of patients they treat. However, artificial intelligence will help. Gamzu noted that health providers are far behind other industries when it comes to digitization, example, the way an institution reinvents how it offers healthcare services. Healthcare providers are behind other sectors with digital-driven AI technology transformation in other countries as well. Gamzu got straight to the point at this Israeli conference where he said that smart digitization can make us better doctors and nurses. He continued that the digitization will make us more precise, more service-oriented, and faster. But that hasn't been the case, adding that the regulatory and compliance factors such as privacy concerns have slowed down and possibly even hampered the progress in his own facility. Gamzu is clear. The more digitization, the more patient data available, the more services can improve. Gamzu himself has been a cancer patient and is personally on a mission to make his organization more patient-centric. The medical center manages all the phases involved with clinical research from preclinical through translational and human trials phase 1 through 4. Innovative medical techniques and technologies spanning all medical disciplines and all departments. And now we turn to kidney-related news stories. The move to patient-centric home health care options continue in America after all. The patient should come first. America lags behind other countries in offering patients the ability to go through dialysis at home. Kaiser Permanente study reveals that the rate of people starting voluntary at-home peritoneal dialysis rose from 15 to 34% over 10 years in Kaiser's Northern California region, which represents a convenient and safe way to manage advanced-stage kidney disease compared with center-based hemodialysis. Perhaps America will now catch up with some other countries for patient convenience. Lead researcher Alan S. Go, MD, research scientist, Kaiser Permanente Division of Research in Oakland, California, noted that the large-scale expansion of in-home dialysis was made feasible using a multidisciplinary integrated coordinated care approach with excellent outcomes in patients with advanced kidney disease. Go continued that peritoneal dialysis remains underutilized nationally. He noted that our study shows that it is possible to greatly expand its use successfully in a large integrated healthcare system and improve outcomes for patients with chronic kidney disease. And now turning to neuroscience news. A new Mount Sinai Research Center will focus on understanding the neuromechanisms of higher cognitive function and applying this knowledge to the diagnosis and treatment of disorders of cognitive function in humans. The new center is called the Lipschultz Center for Cognitive Neuroscience and was established through a grant from Mark and Jennifer Lipschultz, whose philanthropic generosity has supported many critical initiatives within the Mount Sinai health system over the past 16 years. It was reported in Newswise that disruptions in the development of the human brain establish a trajectory for later life dysfunction. Studying the circuit mechanisms of cognitive brain function in the context of development is critical to comprehending how diseases of thought and cognition occur. Do you have any clinical news you'd like us to report on? If so, let us know. Contact information is in the box below. If you'd like to watch more, there's video playlists here. Thank you for joining us for this week's Trial Site News Roundup. And remember, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of future updates. We'll see you next time.